So today I'm going to be doing a book unhaul. It is something I won't be planning on doing a whole lot in my whole booktube career. It's just for now, like I said, I want to hammer out books I've owned for a long time now and have pretty much reflected my taste in high school, but also have a lot I haven't read that I'm going to decide if I do still want to read or not, or use for some reason. I already did reviews on this kind of in my developmental edit episode. The story spinner, I'm definitely getting rid of. I have really no more use for that one. But the Castings trilogy, despite what I said in the developmental edit and the problems that it has, I hope that I can kind of get over it and be more in the mood for what kind of story this book is offering. And again, I'm interested in what's going on and how, it's going to be concluded and how they're going to tie in all these points of view together. So it's definitely something I'm keeping. I'll put it up here. This will be my books that I've read and I'm going to keep. These are going to be books that I either haven't read but still want to go into, or if it's a book I have read and I'm going to be using it for like a video before I get rid of it. So I'm going to start with the obvious ones. So the Mistborn trilogy I bought at, it was cheap. And yes, I love it. I'm keeping it. It's just, now that I know I love it, I kind of want to upgrade to the nicer copies. So I'm keeping it. I'm not going to go into detail. You've heard a lot about that series, so. Next is the Graceling series that I mentioned in my BookTube newbie tag video. The series that really inspired my taste for my whole high school career of reading. But obviously keeping. However, again, with the Mistborn series, is they are coming out with more after a long time of not doing it. And I hope it's a trend that continues. I'm going to hold on to them, though, until I know for sure that all the ones that are coming out with their new covers, if they're going to keep that cover, because the reason why I'd get rid of these is to match the new covers. But they all kind of delve through these topics that are kind of more deep and meaningful and worthwhile, and all of the leads are very different, and the stories they tell are all very different. Are they perfect books? No, absolutely not. But I've reread them multiple times, and I will reread them again. And despite going to be getting rid of these copies, before I do, I plan on practicing annotating with them, because I'm trying to hammer out how I'm going to be doing that. So they're going to be marked and stuff, so I won't be able to give them away or donate them, but they'll still serve one last purpose for me before I get rid of them, because I've held on to these for such a long time. But you got to say goodbye to things every once in a while. Yes, they mean a lot to me. I might keep this one just in my memories, even after I annotate it, just because it's beat up. There's tape, and it's just, yeah. The nostalgia that comes with owning at least this first one is worth it for me to kind of have it take up some space. Okay. Next, these books. I've only just started to read Princess of Thorns. It's one I'm going to be talking about. I don't know if I'm going to read it all the way, but it'll definitely be one I make a video of once I get to at least 100 pages. Right now I'm at page 80, and there's a lot wrong with it, but there's also a lot that I kind of enjoy about it. Well, I say a lot. There's also some things I kind of enjoy about it that I hope to improve on. I might force myself to finish it just so I'll have a deeper understanding of how to improve it. So I'm keeping it for the video. After that, it is going away. Next is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This one, it's from the point of view of an artist, and every once in a while you can kind of see how like an artist would view the world, like how it explains it. So I would use it to study that. It's one of those books where the romance kind of covers the whole plot. It's also kind of like a love at first sight romance. Like you don't get a whole lot of build up. It's just, like a chapter maybe, and then they're in love, and then they go on this adventure, and it's revolves around their relationship, which I am not a fan of. I'd rather learn more about the kind of the way they did the Fae, because it's a Fae novel. Essentially she does this portrait for this Fae prince, and she ends up adding like emotion in his eyes, like sorrow or something. But that's like a big no-no with the Fae people. And so he kind of takes her hostage. Yeah. And there's just a lot more I wish was done with it. So I will be making a video on it and kind of cataloging those parts that go with the artist's perspective. But after that, I think I'd get rid of it. I'd still recommend it to beginner fantasy people, especially women. But it's not going to be something I'm going to be keeping on my shelf for long. So The Great Hunt. It's, kill the beast, win the girl. But only this time it's like terrorizing this kingdom. And so despite it being a competition, these people kind of have to work together. So that was kind of cool to see. And there are a few other things that make it unique, but it didn't really do a lot for the plot. It just seemed like it was thrown in there for the sake of it, And I didn't finish it, but I did do research, and I did kind of skim through kind of what was going on. And essentially it doesn't fulfill kind of like the promises it was giving. And stuff was like handed to things. And again, the romance wasn't handled well. So it's definitely going to be one I'm going to make a video about. A few videos, actually, I think. Because I can talk about developmental editing advice, and then also how you could use it for practice. Yeah. So maybe like 2 videos about it. And maybe one other one mixed in with it, So that is getting rid of, but keeping for now. Oh, the Key to Rondo. This was a really... I remember... This was one of the most imaginative books I read as a kid. It was like, I didn't know that there was a series, but it was essentially my Narnia. It's kind of like a portal fantasy, only they get transported into this music box. I'll read the back here for you. There are 4 rules to the old painted music box that Leo Langlander inherits from his great aunt. Wind the box 3 times only. Never wind the box while the music plays. Never move the box while the music plays. Never close the lid till the music has stopped. Leo wouldn't dream of breaking these rules. He wouldn't dream of doing anything wrong. Then his weird cousin Mimi comes to visit, and the first thing she does is wind the music box 4 times. But what Mimi intends as a prank unlocks a hidden world and frees a sorceress inside of it. Now Leo and Mimi must pair up to stop the witch, if only they can discover the true secret of the music box in time. So this is one. I might be kind of updating it because it is very, very worn, but I read it multiple times. I had no idea there was a series involving it. Like, I'm pretty sure it ended like satisfactorily enough for me that I didn't even try searching for whether or not there was more, or I just forgot about it when I moved on to the next series, which is kind of why I tend to prefer series that are completed, because otherwise I'll forget about it, I'll lose interest, and I'll have a hard time going back and rereading it sometimes. There are a few series that aren't finished that I'm still going to be going into, but ultimately, because this was a staple of my middle grade self, and it really introduced me to a lot of things, and like I said, it's essentially my Narnia. It is a series I will be keeping. And I don't want kids, but I do kind of want to be involved in like some kid's life somehow. And so it would definitely be put on my like nursery children's like library shelf kind of thing, for when kids come to visit. But yeah, I highly recommend this book for your children, maybe for you. I haven't read it recently, but I will be. So keeping it. The phrases. I stumble on my words. Sorry. Okay. So next is Reign of Shadows by Sophie Jordan. When the darkness descended, her fate was sealed. A world of darkness, a love that shines. I doubt the love actually shines. Sarah J. Maas did leave a comment on it, though. Chock full of harrowing action, swoon-worthy romance, and a compelling, formidable pair of protagonists, Reign of Shadows was a thrill ride from start to finish. I mean, so I picked this up, and The Princess of Thorns, and a few others, I think. But I've always wanted to try my hand at rewriting like fairy tale retellings. And I kind of wanted to see what was on the market already, what was there, what I could be inspired from, or be like, I don't want to do that. Like, but so ultimately, there's like this land where, so Rapunzel's supposed to be dead, but she's hiding out in this tower, and it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic thing where everything's dark now. And I don't know. I could read the back, but I'm already kind of gearing up for. I'm not going to keep it, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time on it. Because I think I did start reading it at one point, but I can't recommend it to you or not recommend it to you. It's just, if you want to do more research, Reign of Shadows by Sophie Jordan. It is going away. The Imposter Queen by Sarah Fine. They chose her as queen. They chose wrong. It mentions, for fans of books of Red Queen, I kind of was, but not enough to complete the series. And probably if I reread it, I wouldn't be. Again, compares it to Red Queen. Unique world building and magic that will embrace this story easily. But the qualities of bravery, love, and devotion will extend its appeal even further, full of passion, fire, and ice. Fire and ice. Part of me feels like it was partly inspired by Game of Thrones. But I don't want to say that because, I've had ideas that I came up with completely on my own that I've learned other series have already thought of. Like, it's just a thing that happens. So I take that back. But ultimately, I do not like how they formatted this. It's kind of hard to read. So 16-year-old Ellie, was only a child when she was chosen by the elders. The only life she had known was in a temple, surrounded by luxury, tutored by magical-wielding priests, preparing for the day when the queen perishes. And then the ice and fire find a new home in Ellie. So apparently she's probably not going to end up getting that gift, and they're going to realize she's not the princess or the queen. I don't know. Yeah, that's the, next paragraph. It talks about that. Disgraced, she flees to the Outlands, the home of banished criminals, some of whom would love to see the temple burn. I am going to keep this, even though, again, my taste. Hang on, I kind of want to see something quick. This kind of weirded me out. And the fact that the text is like, it's got like half opacity, not half, like maybe like 70. It kind of makes reading it hard, especially here since they chose the font of like the red fire in the background. I don't know. But anyway, I feel like I might connect on some level with this main character because it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff I went through with the religion I grew up in that I'm no longer part of. And maybe it'll deal with like the whole imposter syndrome thing, which, it might be worthwhile. We'll see. I'll definitely put this on my to be read soon list because, again, I want to get rid of most of these books. So it'll be read soon. And it'll be in one of my group reviews of what I've currently read. And yeah, we'll see. I'm keeping this. But I also haven't read it. We'll go here. Okay, Death Sworn. Okay, by Leah Cypress. Again, most of these books I haven't read. I probably bought at like a discount bookstore of some kind. So I bought, a lot. It's possible not to fall deep into the dark yet alluring world of sorcery and secret assassins. That's nice. Prepare to be ensnared from the very first page. Okay, well, let's go to the first page. She would not allow her determination to crumble now. She had spent the past few days concentrating solely on getting here, and not on where she was going, keeping her focus on following the elders' directions through thick forests and I'm already bored. Okay, what's the real first page? That was like an intro. Okay, so chapter 1. The first step should have been the hardest. The cave entrance. I almost said entrance. I always mispronounce words. I don't know why. So the cave. I almost did it again. The cave entrance. I'm just kidding. Angled so sharply that one step was all it took, plunging her from light to darkness, from the fresh scent of snow to the smell of musty earth. I kind of like that transition. From the touch of the breeze to the weight of dank stone. Yeah, I kind of like that sentence. Eleni stopped for a moment, and not only to allow her eyes to adjust. Melted snow trickled down her hair and dripped on the back of her neck. Her skin was chapped by the wind. But inside the entrance to the assassin's caves, the air was dry and still. She could hear the slow drip of snow melting off rocks, but within her next few steps, she would leave snow and wind dash. So, first pages, it has some, nice description, but what does it say? I am not ensnared. Okay, so let's finish that sentence. She could hear the slow drip of snow melting off rocks, but with her next few steps, she would leave snow and wind and sunlight and falling leaves and everything she'd ever known behind her forever. Again, there's so much I haven't read that I want to catch up on, and so much that I don't even have that I want to start reading, that ultimately I don't think this is going to be enough. And I don't, what is like, she's in danger of losing her magic and might lose like her whole livelihood. I don't know. I don't think it'll be up to par. I don't think it's worth my time. And if you get mad I'm throwing my books, I have a dog who likes to be next to me wherever I am. So she has a bed over there. She has a bed right here between this desk and my chair. She has a bed right next to my bed. So I'm throwing these onto one of her beds, so they're not being too damaged. I want them out of the way. Stolen Songbird. I think this was part of like a fairy tale retelling list that I had seen, and so I bought it. It's by Danielle L. Jensen. Sometimes one must do the unthinkable. I like that so far. This one compares it to Seraphina and Graceling. Seraphina is one I had started reading, but I started reading it a little late and I had to return it. I definitely want to read that one. And Graceling Kishore, definitely, that's good. For 5 centuries, a witch's curse has bound the trolls to their city beneath the mountain. When Cecile de Troyes is kidnapped and taken beneath the mountain, she realizes that the trolls are relying on her to break the curse. Cecile has only one thing on her mind: escape. I really hope that's true. It's because I'm tired of young adult fantasy books with girl leads being mostly about romance. Okay, but the trolls are clever, fast, and inhumanely strong. She will have to bide her time, ... But the more time she spends with the trolls, the more she understands their plight. There is a rebellion brewing, and she just might be the one the trolls were looking for. Yeah, I'm already interested, and I really hope... I'm okay if there is romance, just most of the time it's not done well, and it takes too much from the plot, and I really like this plot. So this book essentially... What are you doing? Lucy, no. Yeah. So ultimately, the deciding point of me keeping this book is whether, it doesn't mention romance in here, which kind of excites me. So we're keeping it. That's probably why I picked it up in the first place. Okay, already I'm kind of torn with this one. The Age of Legends series by Kelly Armstrong, even though it doesn't say Age of Legends anywhere on this book, I know it's called that because that's what it's called at Goodreads. But ultimately, okay, I'll give you a rundown kind of what this is about, even though I don't remember everything. So there's these 2 sisters, twins, that are called the Keeper and the Seeker, and they each, one of my favorite parts is that they each have like this familiar like animal that is like a predator of kind. One of them had like a canine, of some kind, and one of them had like a feline. And they live right next to this forest where they banish these like criminals. And they're and I think like the criminals are like meant to die there because like the forest is like super dangerous or something. And so they have to like banish spirits. And then a whole lot of this wasn't memorable. I do remember parts of it. I do really remember enjoying both the sisters' points of view, even though them being really, really different. But I remember that there was this, okay, it's not a spoiler. So this one character ends up kind of, she really likes telling stories. And she ends up getting this curse. Apparently it's really bad. She doesn't want to show anybody. It ends up getting returned by somebody else. There's this whole, like, tradition thing with it. And I really thought what was going on had to do with the curse and her stories and stuff. But it wasn't. It went in a completely different direction. And I also liked that, like, you thought there was going to be this love triangle between this one character and these two other guys, but there wasn't, which I really liked. And I actually 100% agree with the transition and the reasons why she ended up not going with this one guy, like, 100% deserved. I know some people think there's annoying characters and characters who don't shut up, but ultimately, is it up to par with, like, the other books? I don't know. Even if I don't decide to keep this, I do kind of want to try and implement the idea I thought was going to be part of it into the series and make a video out of that. So after that, I'll decide whether or not I'm keeping it. But for now, I'm going to put it in this pile. And there is a third one. I don't know what happened to it. It might have been like a paperback, and I was planning on getting a hardcover, so I got rid of it. But, sometimes like you buy it off of the site and you don't pay attention, or it gives you something that it advertised you were going to get, but then you got something different. So, next. Oh, okay, so there's not a whole my reason for keeping this series. Like, I already know I'm going to do it, even though I keep trying to convince myself to get rid of them. It's the Claudy journals, or the Clady journals by Tanith Lee. They are all called like Wolf something. So like Wolf Star, Wolf Wing, Wolf Tower, and Wolf Queen. They were a staple of my middle grade reading, and I'm all about plot and structure and meaningfulness and stuff. This series has none of that. It's essentially this girl who's just journaling of her adventures that she doesn't really even want to go on. She's just getting drawn into all these people's plots and stuff. You kind of learn why that's happening, but like she's not super smart. She's not super like strong, good at fighting. Like, there's nothing really special about her. She just is, and she's just cataloging her journey. And I wouldn't say I necessarily recommend it, but at the same time, like, if you're aware of kind of what it is and some of the problems that kind of, why is there a green sticker on here? That kind of like arrive with the series. Like, if you can get past that, I would suggest it. But also keep in mind it is, for middle grade, early YA. I think I remember like getting hooked on the first sentence. So unlike that one that promised I'd be hooked from the first page, no, what was it? Entranced by the first page, and I wasn't. This one doesn't have that promise, but I still was. And it was the first, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences that entranced me. So, this book, yes, I stole this book. I don't know why. It looked nice, I suppose, and nothing has been nice for years. Well, not often. And, yeah, that's all it took to hook me. And I really like it. Like, she starts out as a slave in this house that she ends up escaping. And then, all her journeys start. But, so, like, I recommend it, but also beware of kind of what it is. Does it reflect my tastes now? No. Nostalgia factor plays a great role in me keeping it. And the fact that, I don't know, they're kind of so obscure and old that I kind of worry that, like, if I ever got rid of it and I decided I wanted to, like, buy it again, that it won't be, like, available, like, it'll have disappeared. So that's part of the reason why I'm keeping it, too. And I do kind of want to. I've learned that I don't remember a whole lot of my youth and childhood, but I've reread some things and I have gained some memories because of that. So I wonder what, if these will unlock anything. Because I do want to do a video of my journey as a reader, but before I do, I kind of want to piece together and make it as accurately as possible because, time is fluid to me and I don't remember a whole lot. And so, but it is important. Like, my journey tells a lot about, where I am now, why I like what I like, who I am now too. Like, it really shaped me. And so for me, it's an important thing. And I hope a lot of other people do it. Like, I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but it's something I am very, very interested in. And if I ever did a redo of the BookTube newbie tag, I would include that question for my favorite booktubers of essentially and if anybody's watching this, what is your history? Like, I want to know. Like, if you make a video about it, or if you have made a video about it, let me know, because I like hearing that kind of stuff. I will do some of my own searches for it. But yeah. Okay. And if you're wondering if most of these are kind of out of order and I do the books upside down, my whole bookshelf looks like that. Like, I don't pay attention really when I'm putting it on the bookshelf. So this one's first. So this series is the typical, you see a lot of this, but it's essentially, I'm trying to think. It's essentially like there was this heir, her family was murdered, and now, sorry, my dog, there's a lot of cords and my dog was kind of having some issues, but, where was I? Oh yeah, parents murdered, dethroned family, this person, the orphan queen, is, an orphan and she's in hiding now, but they're also kind of like a rebellious group, the Ospreys? I think they're called the Ospreys. But there's this consequence to magic that started a long time ago where if you use it too much, there's this thing called wraith that starts like growing and like attacking people and turning into these like monsters. And there's this whole like, the whole forbidden forest trope. There's like this whole wraith land thing that grew from like, and there's like this lost kingdom in it, which to me was the most interesting part of the whole series. And again, it wasn't delved into nearly as much as I would have liked it to be. And it was taken over by the romance. So I'm already going to tell you that I'm getting rid of these books. Beginner fantasy, sure, why not? I don't necessarily recommend them though, but if you have kids or somebody trying to get into fantasy and they're girls, suggest it. They can make up their own mind. Do I want to? I might make a video off of this first one. So I'll put that one. I was more gentle with that one. I'll put it on this pile for this first one. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember some things that I can change. Or at least make a video about. I don't think I'll do like a whole, they should have focused more on this, Wraith, and that's what I would do. I think there's just a few topics I can cover alongside other books that I'll be doing with that one before I get rid of it. So, next is The Girl of Fire and Thorns. I already know I'm going to keep this series, I think. Yeah, even though it's not like perfect or, like the best series you'll ever read, or in taste with what I have. I don't know. I'll have to reread it to be sure. But the reason why I'm keeping it is because it was another branch off of the typical female heroine that's like, badass and stuff. She's overweight. She likes to eat like a bunch of sweets. I think she is like really smart, but not as smart as like her sister, who's kind of like the perfect princess, skinny and all that. But she's kind of like this chosen one, and you see this gem. I think they have like this gem that goes in their belly button that signifies they're a chosen one. And it's not really like a big epic thing that they're chosen for, but usually this small little act that'll like come into play later and help like the future and whatnot. And there were a few twists that I really liked. Like how they treated like two of the romances in here. You'll probably hate me if you read it and you see kind of what it is, but I really liked the direction they took the two romances. Like she goes into this arranged marriage and he essentially wants her to like save his kingdom and stuff. And then there's this other guy she ends up meeting, and those are the two marriages. those are the two romances I'm kind of talking about. And then there's the third one later that I also really love. So, yeah. Keeping these. Okay. So, Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh. This one has like the world building was very unique in these. And I would recommend these, even though looking at them and thinking about them, I'm not gonna be keeping them. But there's 4 kingdoms that like are different season related. I'm pretty sure like they constantly stay that season throughout like the whole year and stuff. And it's again another one of those typical lost heir things. And there's a twist that was very predictable. And I thought it was gonna go one way with how this romance was doing it, and it went another, and I didn't like that. And there were some nice lines I remember that I liked, and a lot of things I liked about it. But ultimately, it's something I would definitely like have on my shelf if I were to, again, have kids over or whatnot who are, older. Beginner fantasy, absolutely recommend. But other than that, I might reread it because it's just one of those that like was interesting, but ultimately I need to get rid of books and make room for the ones I like, really, really like. Because there are, again, these are from so long ago, and there are so many more books out there that I have to be picky. It's kind of hurt. Do I want to like make a video out of them first? Not really. I will say though, there is an almost rape scene, like it's an attempt at one. I will let you know though that it's kind of a spoiler, but she doesn't. Like she's able to like get out of the situation. But just be wary of that. I think my dog's back there. Yeah, okay, she took over that bed, so I'm no longer going to be tossing it under the bed. Instead, they kind of slid into a pile off my desk, because my desk is a mess, but whatever. Okay. So the darkest minds never fade. This came after, the Hunger Games thing with the dystopian novel. Like, that really introduced me to the interest of dystopian novels. Of all the ones I read, I will say this is the best runner-up for Hunger Games. I only read Divergent, like the first book of that series, and I hated it. But this one wasn't bad. Again, I'd have this on my shelf for other people, but ultimately, especially since like dystopian, it's something I am mildly interested in, but also not. And it's got the typical plot of it's kind of reminds me of Graceling too, where these kids all out of nowhere, I'm not going to tell you why. There is a reason why that you find out, but they start getting these powers and they have these camps and they kind of get used and abused and stuff like that. Like it's a good series, but ultimately it's just I'm kind of wondering if I'm taking it back. No, okay, I'm getting rid of it. I haven't touched them. I've only read them once. So, however, I do like how it's like a sentence. And I did adapt. I remember I adapted. I'll have to find that document. But I adapted my own titles inspired by these. It's The Darkest Minds Never Fade in the Afterlight. So, like, I really like that for titles. And I did use that. I don't know if I'll ever actually make anything out of those books. But I do have a few titles that were based off of and inspired by this. Alexandra Bracken. She wrote Lore. Bracken, yeah. I did not realize that before. But I literally just read Lore like a week ago. That's interesting. Okay, now I kind of want to keep them. I don't have a lot of dystopian stuff. Okay, for now, I'm keeping them. I will give them a reread, and then I'll decide if I really am getting rid of them. Because, yeah, that saved them. Okay. I really should get rid of them, I think. But we'll see. Okay, so again, out of order. The Young Elites by Mary Lou. This one I was sure I wasn't really going to like, because I read Mary Lou's Legend. I did not finish it. I don't remember, there was a few things I didn't like leading up to the scene that made me not finish it. Essentially, it was like this kiss scene that happened. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what is going on here? Like, this is, like, once we got there, I had a feeling like the romance was going to be annoying and going to take over the plot and stuff. And so I just got rid of it. If I'm wrong, tell me. If it's worth it to continue, tell me. But especially since when I read it, I was so anti-romance everything. Now, it's more now that I'm more into just well-done romances. But it took me a long time to kind of get into romance. And ultimately, it was when I was first starting to like plot out books and stuff, like stuff that I'll never ever publish because I thought of it when I was in middle school. But I realized, oh, you know what? Romance sells, so I need to get into that. And so I started reading more romance, trying to get into romance, doing research, and got better at it. And eventually I found a liking for it, like I did. But this series, I'm keeping. Because I read kind of what inspired the author to do this. Originally, she was going to do the typical, I think, lost heir to this throne kind of thing, trying to reclaim what was his. And he was, like he's like a hero, but there was a side character of who this main character is throughout these books. And she's kind of like an anti-hero antagonist to the main group it was originally going to be written about. And I really like that because this is essentially anti-hero villain story of this girl. But like she was told by her editor, or she just realized that this girl's story was more interesting than the main guy's. So yeah, this I'm keeping. Only I don't have room for it. I'll have to move the pillars out of the way. And I'm not doing that right now, so. Finally, we get to The Wind on Fire trilogy by William Nicholson. I've put a lot of thought after making my BookTube newbie tag video of, again, because I'm trying to make that history video, of what order certain books, like kind of like a plot point book of like, this was a big factor here, and this was, and I'm leaning towards the fact that this was a big factor in my transition to fantasy. I used to think it was Graceling because that's the one that affected me the most, but I think this was my introduction because I have this one memory. Like I remember I started rereading like the first page and stuff, and I remember this. I was in the middle school library and I was trying to check it out. The librarian was like, "Are you sure you want to like read these?" Because it was a big book, and so because of that, I feel like I was younger, and so this might have been some of my first. I do remember there were a few like singles, like The Skull of Truth, a few Avi books, The Key to Rondo, other ones. But like the Kestrel. Oh my gosh, I'm having so many memories now. Yeah, I'm solid in the fact that this came before Graceling because Kestrel is kind of like the rebel girl who's kind of all this, but also, yeah. Oh my god. Okay, I'm remembering things. Okay, I'm definitely keeping the series. It's very strange though. It's a middle school book. Like it was in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade side of the library, but I read it earlier than that. I think like 4th or 5th grade. I don't remember how much I kind of fully comprehended it. It does deal with like some darker themes, and so it probably won't hold up to any like of the standards I would put for young adult or adult fantasy, or any of the standards I have now of like the depth and some choices it has. But ultimately for a middle grade series, kind of bleeding into the young adult age, like beginner young adult, it does really well. And also because it was such a staple. I'm having so many memories. Sorry. Yeah, I'm keeping it. Okay. So that is all I have. I will get to these hopefully soon, but I'm kind of like staggering new books that I've recently published that I'm really interested in now compared to like old books. That way I kind of get, that out of the way, but I also don't limit myself and get bored of reading again. Because that happened a lot, especially in high school. Again, I'll get to my whole history later. But yeah, that is all I have for you today. See you guys next time.